Got it. Thank you. Okay, I'm just scanning to see if we have Senator Hartley on. I don't see her presently, but we do have our featured 4.0 provider from Yale University on the line. So let's just get right into it. I will do, as we always, the covering of our agenda. So if there's any announcements or roundtable that we want to particularly call out, we can open the floor for that. We are approaching the latter part of our i4.0 service providers who are a named partner on this working group. So I'll review that schedule. We've had some real-time changes as folks are populating their 2022 schedules. We have Dr. Sarah Miller, a dean from engineering of Yale University, joining us. She's been with us, but she will be featuring, telling us more about Yale University as it pertains to Industry 4.0. And then Jeff is going to lead us through an active working session for the back half of our meeting today. So we're maintaining a biweekly cadence. It is February. If you needed that reminder, I don't know if the groundhog saw a shadow yesterday. I have no idea, but hopefully everyone is doing well out there and we can just get right into it. So I personally don't have any news to bring to this group for a roundtable and/or announcement. So I'll take a pause to see if anyone else out there might want to have something that they'll raise to this team.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty. So
Jackie, I'll give a quick update on the service provider cataloging. We had a little hiccup in engaging our intern. I'm hoping to have one in early next week. And when I do, I will send an email to our service providers to ask them to provide a point of contact. So that's the current status of that.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So just as a reminder, before then, I turn screen share rights over to Dean Miller. That's February 16th, 2 weeks from now, we will have Cindy from the Central Connecticut Chamber of Commerce give an overview as a service provider. And then closing out, we will have Christy Patima speak on behalf of the Connecticut Manufacturers Collaborative. I think I have that spelled, I do have that spelled wrong, so apologies for that. As a reminder to us as a whole collective working group, we are going to be submitting a progress report due no later than March 15th. So our core team will start to work on that. We did get some guidance that says that we want to keep it very high level. So thinking of PowerPoint slides with an executive summary to really capture what we have been doing for the last several months now. So we will be sharing that out with the team and probably use that March 2nd meeting just to, get eyes on what we're going to be submitting to the Commerce Committee. So with no further ado, Sarah, if you're ready to go, I'll stop share and then turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Jackie. I am ready to go. Let me just make sure. Can everyone hear me, or can anyone hear me? Okay. And do you see PowerPoint slides?
Yes.
Yep. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks so much. I'm really excited to share with you all this morning a little bit about the excitement happening on Yale's campus with regard to science and engineering. I'm going to frame my comments around three kind of themes. One is investment, the infrastructure is another, and innovation is the third. And I'll talk about each of those. But before I start, I thought I'd give just a little context for the university in general. It's about 4,700 faculty. More than half of those are in the medical school campus. About $1.1 billion in research dollars spent from fiscal year a couple of years ago. In our student profile, we have about 6,000 undergraduate students, about 3,000 doctoral students, and then about 4,400 students in professional schools. And we've got a number of those: architecture school, a music school, a law school, medical school, etc. We have hearing some feedback. There we go. I just want to show you some of the interest from our incoming undergraduates and what students are studying. And I suspect this looks similar at many of our partner institutions around the state. An increasing interest in the blue line there in physical sciences and engineering, particularly in computer science. I'm sure that national trend's being seen other places as well. So a lot of interest from our students, and you're going to see that the university is really responding to that. And we're investing significantly in the STEM fields. I wanted to mention just briefly, one of our schools is also an engineering school. This is a tiny but mighty school on campus. We've had engineering at Yale since the mid 1800s, and it's had a really interesting history throughout its time. In something like 15 years ago, we began a biomedical engineering degree program. Computer science joined our school not long ago, and applied physics rejoined the school. So we have 6 departments now in the Yale School of Engineering and Applied Science, about 100 faculty all in. And one of the points I want to make this morning to share with you all is that STEM is a real priority for growing at Yale. And I'm going to tell you some of the things we're doing to make that happen. Several years ago, the university issued a science strategy report. And this is one of the reports that doesn't live on a shelf like many do, but really has become very actionable and very important to what's happening on campus. And 5 key areas were identified. You can see them here: data science and mathematical foundations, quantum science and engineering, neuroscience, planetary solutions, inflammation. And these 5 areas were identified as science priorities, meaning that the university is going to spend significantly and invest in these going forward. And they've really been meant to rally not just scientists and engineers on campus, but people from all departments, all schools. I'll take planetary solutions as an example. That's really thinking about environmental problems and climate change. And that's been engaging, of course, colleagues at the School of the Environment, but also people from economics who study carbon economics, and people from the humanists who study implications for society. And so it's really meant to be something that all of Yale's campus is working on, although the focus is really science and engineering. And we expect significant investment in these particular disciplines over the next years, buildings, faculty lines, lots of fundraising and activity in these areas. Just this past year, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. This past year, the engineering school, the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Yale, issued a strategic report and identified 4 additional areas of discipline that we're going to be focusing on within the engineering school: material science, robotics, artificial intelligence, and mathematical modeling and scientific computation. So within the engineering sphere at Yale, these are interdisciplinary topics that we expect to be making significant investment in the near future. I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure, because there's a lot happening on campus, and just point out a few things that might be especially relevant to colleagues on this call. We have something called Yale West Campus, and for those who may not be familiar, this was the former Bayer Pharmaceutical campus. It's located about 7 miles outside of New Haven in Orange. It's a 136-acre complex with many buildings, and it was, when Yale bought it, already outfitted with lots of high-tech research facilities. And so Yale's been able to turn this into a really scientific home for lots of things on campus where you never really have space, but you know you want to do them. And now we have the luxury of having space. So we've focused a lot of our core facilities out there. You can see some of them listed here: materials characterization, genome analysis, imaging. There's a lot of analytical instrumentation there as well, clean rooms, things like that. And we have room to grow there, which is really exciting. There's also a number of institutes housed there. It's a very interdisciplinary area. So there's, just to name a few, an Energy Science Institute, a Systems Biology Institute. There's an Institute for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage, which is a really neat one, which involves maintaining some of the collections from our art museums and using scientific principles to keep things in really tip-top shape. So at any rate, this is a large facility that Yale is lucky to have just outside of New Haven. And we've really focused a lot of our scientific and engineering enterprise there, especially for analytics. Hold on, let me move forward. Here we go. I also wanted to mention Yale's Wright Lab, which is a laboratory on campus housed near our physics complex. And this is a really interesting space that's focused on instrumentation development. Of course, there's also research labs and lots of training of students as well, but it has some really, really nice state-of-the-art facilities that we are able to share sometimes, both on campus and cross campus and with partners. And some of the facilities are listed there: advanced prototyping center, a lot of machine shops, clean rooms, cryogenic lab, etc. So this is a place where there's a lot of scale up and instrumentation development that's worked on campus. couple more infrastructure notes I wanted to share. For those not as familiar with New Haven, I wanted to share the development of Science Park, which is an area just west of Yale's Science Hill. And this is home to startup and even established biotech and technology companies. It also houses some Yale University offices, as well as apartments and other nonprofits that benefit the community. But it really is a whole conglomeration of buildings that has been established by Yale and the city of New Haven and Olin Corp to develop the former Winchester firearms factories. And it's really, really exciting what they've done down there and worth visiting. It's a really thriving area where lots of scientists are working and developing new technologies. And finally, with regard to infrastructure, I wanted to mention 101 College Street. To talk about 101 College Street, first off, about 100 College Street, which again, if you're not familiar with New Haven, 100 College Street is the home of the Alexion Pharmaceuticals company, which is a spinoff from Yale. And it will soon be home, this 100 College Street, to something called the Wu Sci Institute, which is a really ambitious research enterprise that's going to combine psychological, biological, and computational sciences. So that's at 100 College, and that's going to be opening in about a year. Across the street, we're now developing 101 College Street with partners. And this is going to be a 10-story, 500,000 square foot bioscience lab and office tower. And it's going to connect our medical school campus with our science campus. So both literally and figuratively kind of connecting the medical side of sciences with our pure sciences. So we're really excited about this. This was the groundbreaking just last summer, and this should be hopefully launching soon so we can start getting new organizations in there. So that's some of the infrastructure, and I'm going to talk about innovation on campus. Like many of partner institutions, I've heard innovation is a big area where we're trying to develop and thrive. And this area, the snapshot I'm showing you here, is a picture from our engineering campus, where our engineering buildings live. And we're now calling it Innovation Corridor because we have 3 co-located facilities that really support innovation. And I'll tell you just a little bit about each of them. The one in the middle, this yellow, very modern looking building, is brand new, and it's called Sci City. The mission there is to inspire students from diverse backgrounds and disciplines to find innovative ways to solve real world problems. And it really is interdisciplinary. They're tackling issues like climate change, civic engagement. They're making documentary films. They're launching high growth ventures. So all kinds of things. This is what the space looks like inside. We haven't been able to populate it the way we thought we would after the launch because of the public health conditions, but we're really looking forward to having a lot of students there. And it really is a very student-centric space, Sci City. We also have sort of a maker space, which is the CEID, is the Center for Innovation and Design. I'm showing you a picture of it here, but this is a facility in our engineering campus that houses really every tool imaginable, basic power tools, milling machines, routers, CNCs, 3D printers, all that. And it's available to students from any department, any major, to come and make and be creative and try and see what they can, what can spin off of it. And so we've had lots of exciting projects, but also small companies come out of here. Students are making musical instruments and rockets and LED light shows and all kinds of cool stuff. So this is a relatively new space on campus that's been very, very popular with our students. And then finally, just to talk about teaching for a moment, we also have some really beautiful new teaching labs. This is the Greenberg Engineering Teaching Concourse, and we have now collected all of our various teaching labs from engineering into one beautiful, newly renovated space where lots of exciting lab and innovation is happening. So that's some of the exciting innovation on campus. And I also wanted to share this slide from our partners at the Office of Cooperative Research, and you can read some of the exciting stats. This is their report from last year, but 11 startups launched, 4th IPO in 4 years straight, 220 inventions were disclosed, 247 patents issued. So lots of activity on campus. And this is an office that supports not just our science and engineering departments, but also the medical school. So there's a lot of collaborative work happening with this particular area of focus. So an active office and lots of exciting data coming out of it. The last thing I wanted to share with you all is the point that I wanted to share is that the engineering school in particular is really hoping to develop new industry partnerships. As I mentioned, the school issued a strategic vision document just recently, just within the last 6 months. One of the lines I pulled from there is that recognizing that engineering schools that have a positive societal impact also have close and nimble relationships with industry. And the engineering school recognizes this in an area that we really want to grow and develop further. Both in terms of research partnerships, sponsored work, projects and curriculum, partnering on senior design, and trying to find a physical place on campus where we can really meaningfully collaborate with industry partners. So these are all things that the engineering school is hoping to develop and move forward in the near future. So just to close, STEM as a top priority for growth. We've got a lot of investment happening on Yale's campus to support this, infrastructure to support this, and a real focus on innovation. And our engineering school is really looking forward to developing new industrial partnerships. And I hope some maybe with people that I meet through this group. And I put my email here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, of course. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. We'll open the floor to see if there's any hands raised or questions, comments.
Yes, sir. This is Jason Howie from OK Industries. Thank you for your presentation. I'm interested in the Wright Lab. Who is that? Just internally to Yale now, or are you actually partnering with industry now with that lab?
A really good question, Jason. It's a Yale facility, but we do welcome, there is a way for partners to access the facilities. I confess that it's been much harder during COVID times to engage in these robust partnerships that we're accustomed to, but public health conditions permitting, we do have partners who use the facilities, but it is run by Yale. Does that answer the question?
A little bit. So in terms of like, if there's certain projects,
yes,
you know, is it partnering with university students on a joint project or a capstone project or something like that basically everybody benefits? Is there agreements in place? Is it just kind of off the cuff using the lab by hour? I mean, just a little bit interested more in how it's structured.
I see. Yes. It supports all kinds of, as you said, all kinds of projects. They might be student projects. They might be faculty projects. There are PI labs in the actual Wright Lab facility, but there are lots of spaces within the Wright Lab that are for working on projects, whether they're curricular or extracurricular or research-based. And many of the people participating in these projects are affiliated with Yale, but some are not.
So this is Eric. Apologize for background noise, but so that kind of begs the question then: is the partnerships you're looking to develop, are they geared more towards, you mentioned student and faculty projects? Are you envisioning a situation where a company might have a particular problem or challenge they're trying to address, and the school being a resource for them to solve that, or is it really be initiated at the student or faculty level?
Another great question, Eric. Yes, we would welcome industry partners, particularly within the engineering school where this is of acute focus. We would welcome industry partners to bring opportunities for collaboration towards us. And we don't have, I came from a large engineering school before coming to Yale. I came from the University of Colorado, where we had very established mechanisms with which to collaborate through industry. We don't have as many at Yale yet, but we're hoping to develop them. And to the extent that we don't have a model in place, we're excited to try and work those out.
Excellent, thank you.
Particularly for, manufacturing, right? So I've been repositioning STEM as adding a squared. I mean, you could argue that it's cubed, right? Down in the bioscience medical sphere of Connecticut, being down in New Haven. So, I think it's enlightening for us. Myself, I spent some time down at Yale's campus, on the engineering campus like years ago. So it's great to see some of these new buildings that are have popped up. But yeah, certainly, us being inclusive of the entire state of Connecticut is important. And then how, we could then continue to spread the message that Sarah has brought to us about the, innovativeness of Yale and how they want to really strongly partner with industry and manufacturing. So Senator Hartley, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello to all. Sarah, yeah, very interesting presentation. And I guess my first reaction is to say hooray, because for far too long, in all candor, the university has been an entity unto itself. And one of the big challenges has always been how to, for us, pierce that veil, if you will, and to work hand in glove with the university. You're an important part of, obviously, the academic world, nationally, internationally, but in this state. And additionally, you're a very important part to the Connecticut economy. So I, for one, am very interested in trying to scale this relationship and do this immediately, because I think far too much time has passed. Now, I also am aware that we've just lost one of our talented individuals who is going over to the entrepreneurship program. How is that going to interface with what you've been talking to us about today?
Yeah, so thanks so much, Senator Hartley. Indeed, we've just hired a rock star to join the team at Yale, who's going to help us advance our goals with regard to innovation and entrepreneurship. And it ties directly into it. I mean, I think this is actually a great example. We're really investing in these areas. This is a new position. We haven't had it before. And so being able to hire someone with the talent and expertise that we've secured to help us lead this is really important. And like you said, I think this is really, this is an exciting time at Yale to try and be doing things a little bit differently and try and be partnering in these ways. And I hope some of people that I've met through this group can help us find ways to start that.
Well, I'm, for one, am volunteering to help you find a way to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I want to mention one other thing, and I don't see Colin Cooper on with us today, and we're going through those.
Actually, I just came on, Senator.
Hi,
Thank
Colin.
you. Hi. Sorry, I was double scheduled. Sorry.
Oh, really? That's something new for you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Colin, maybe you can better than I talk about, one of the issues that you see looming on our horizon with regard to clean manufacturing. And I'm interested in Yale's, work and ability in trying to help us distinguish our manufacturing population.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's two things to sort of high level things to think about. Clean. I'll back up a little bit. Clean energy in terms of opportunities and risk. One is obviously clean energy is a great market moving forward. There's a lot going on, and in Connecticut, we've got as you all may well know, we've got 30 gigawatts of offshore wind power coming online just east of Long Island and south of Martha's Vineyard in the next 10 years or so, literally in our backyard, which is going to represent about $100 billion worth of capital investment and about somewhere between $3 and $5 billion a year of OPEX, operating expense, to maintain those through the 20 plus year life of those fields. So there's a tremendous amount of economic opportunity there coming at us in our backyard. And then also both opportunity and risk for a lot of our suppliers, our manufacturers in Connecticut are in supply bases, whether it's medical devices or in helicopters or submarines or jet engines or automotive. And a lot of the OEMs, the customers in those supply bases are looking to push down clean requirements for their manufacturers. They're coming. They're going to look just like they want every aerospace manufacturer be ISO and AS 9100 certified. Government is looking for their suppliers to reach a certain level of cybersecurity. There are going to be requirements flown down through these supply lines, supply chains for clean manufacturing. So again, it's going to create opportunities, but it's also going to require, it's going to create risk. It's going to require focus and resources to be put in that endeavor. So Senator, I don't know, again, I came in late. I don't know if I addressed the issue that you were raising.
No, that's exactly, the conversation that I want to promote here. And I think it's going to take all hands on deck. We, of course, are not about the business of trying to be, mandating or anything, but we want to be the facilitator. We want to help to build this dimension so that our manufacturers can be in the forefront of this, not only this opportunity, but also requirements that might be coming down to them as we know that the downstream on the defense industry here is, a very important and robust part of the manufacturing sector in Connecticut. Thank you, Colin.
Yeah, and I just, as an aside, I focus on offshore wind and clean energy. There's great opportunities also in things like fuel cells, hydrogen generation, batteries, a whole host of areas. But that's a separate course of discussion. I just focus on offshore wind because of the magnitude of it. But
Right.
yeah, if we get ahead of this, that puts us these requirements. If we get ahead of these requirements on clean manufacturing, that'll put us at a competitive advantage relative to other suppliers.
Yeah, and once again, it distinguishes us. It sends a message nationally, internationally about our manufacturing sector. Yeah, thank you. Sarah, we'll talk.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Go ahead, Jason.
Just as it relates to the purpose of this commission in IoT, Sarah, anything that you can share that you guys are doing at Yale in regards to IoT and in ways that you can, because the mission is to help, small and medium-sized manufacturers with IoT in terms of those technologies. Is there anything that Yale is doing now, or is there certain people that this group should be reaching out to?
Thanks, Jason. I think that the answer is we want to be doing more, and we're starting from a place where we have lots of opportunity to grow. And I would be happy to be your point of contact for anyone to start figuring out the right way in which we can develop those models if they don't already exist.
Anyone else have questions or comments for Sarah? Well, I, for one, want to take a field trip down to New Haven. So, Senator Hartley, I see your hand raised again. Do you want to say something?
Sorry, just lowering it.
Okay, no problem. All right, this deck will be up on our website, so that will be posted shortly. If anyone wants it direct, you could drop me or Sarah an email, and we'll get that to you more promptly. But really great conversation and discussion, and trying to connect some dots. There's a lot of opportunity here, as you just heard from Senator Hartley and also from Colin. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to Jeff, and we could go into continue a more engaging discussion and get us working through some of our opportunities here.
Thank you, Jackie. So we are a working group, and Jackie and I have been working through how to get appropriate input on kind of the next stages of what we're doing, which is looking at the gaps and how our process flow works. We anticipate sending out a Google form that will gather some information and kind of lead some of our discussion. But as part of that, the legislation uses 6 or 7 words to describe how service providers support Industry 4.0 to the manufacturers. And so what we wanted to do today was kind of use this time to work with you to give some definition and meaning behind those words. And so I am going to share my screen. Okay. And so we should all be seeing the first word is researching. And then to do this exercise for those who can, I would like to use the annotate feature of Zoom. So if you look up at your menu bar, either connected to the three dots or showing up is the word annotate. And if you click on that, it brings down another menu bar that has different ways to annotate. So for example, you can enter text. Yep, someone's got that. So your comment goes here. So are people finding that feature? Can put little messages and stuff. And so what I would like to do is just, and we can do it by talking or by you writing on the page with annotate, but start to give some definition to what you think it's meant for service providers to help with researching in Industry 4.0 technologies for the manufacturers. So Sarah, I noticed you put that as one of your checkboxes for Yale. So maybe you'd like to start and give some input in what you thought that meant for when you did your presentation today.
Do you want me to write something down, Jeff?
Yeah, if you can.
Okay,
or
let me get my technology
talk.
straight. I think I can do it.
Yep, Sarah's getting there, I can see. So you go, if you go up top, you can click on the T for text, and you should be able to then enter. And this is meant to be brainstorming, so please feel free to put down any idea. We will correlate those offline. And for those having difficulty, feel free to just spell things out or say things, and I'll add them in, or we'll capture them later.
So when we had first kicked off this working group, we had submitted a survey and circulated around to our i4.0 providers and then also to our manufacturing community. And so we do have some of this like boxes that are checked of whose organization feels like they do research, consulting, marketing, deploying, etc. There, as Jeff said, there are 7 of these, keywords that if we need more clarity on, if you have a definition that you think in your mind is working or not, right? Like this is an opportunity for us to have some lively conversation in addition to hopefully not putting each other's text boxes on top of one another. And again, we have 25 more minutes until we hit the top of the hour. So if we want to maximize, the conversation, if there's things coming down the pipe, right? So other, Jeff, maybe we could even in the comments, like identify those other
Yep.
boxes to be checked. So that way we don't just like get stuck in or hammering on one thing here. So, yep, small companies, we know that they don't have R&D resources. They rely mostly on some salespeople. Again, I had put in a comment there that CCAT, what we do in our Advanced Technology Center, we're growing our portfolio of Industry 4.0 technologies. Certainly, we've heard from Constep about cybersecurity. It's not particularly, the focus of, or has been, of these conversations until recently, but knowing who does what out there in the community is important. Best practice assistance by industry. There are other states that I know Jeff from the MEP network and myself have been connected to. And so I think, the message is that you heard from Senator Hartley is like, we as the state of Connecticut want to be leading in this area. Other states are looking to us and knowing what our legislative working group is doing. And we're at the forefront, and certainly can have an opportunity to create best practices ourselves, even though we sometimes feel like we're a bit the blind leading the blind in some cases.
I am putting the 7 categories in the chat, but we can save this screen in a moment and go on to the next one. All right. Oh, I see some input still being provided. All right, so the next word to cover is developing. So support in developing i4.0 technologies. Do I have to stop annotating to move the screen? Yes. So I will clear this. Actually, I'll say one more time and then clear. All right. And so now if you could think about your definition for developing, how service providers help in developing technology for i4.0 technologies for manufacturers.
One of the things that we had heard from this group is wanting to promote success stories and use cases of how companies are leveraging i4.0. So for CCAT today, we had featured on LinkedIn and other social platforms to follow the mixed reality demonstration that we had done through the New England program, NERDIC, and Brian Montanari and Habco. You've both reshared that content. So it's a quite lengthy storytelling with a link to a YouTube video that cuts a clip of, Brian talking through and the team talking through this particular opportunity. So while, Brian, if you want to just highlight it, talk about it. I mean, these are the types of things that we want to be able to continue to populate and share out, not just keep it within this working group here. So I see you coming off mic if you wanted to, speak to that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. We did a project with CCAT and SphereGen for the implementation of mixed reality to assist with one of our manufacturing processes for a Sikorsky product. It was a product that we got a large order for that we weren't necessarily set up for proper flow with the current environment of products that we did for Sikorsky. So it was a targeted area where we wanted to reduce the cycle time of some of our key operations, and in particular, the stenciling of the containers. It takes us about 3 hours to lay all the stencils by measuring out exactly where they need to go. And through the partnership with CCAT and SphereGen, now our technicians can put on the HoloLens glasses, and through mixed reality, the software steps them through every step of putting the stencils on. So you just wear the glasses, and in the image, it shows where the stencil goes. So it's a quick go, no go alignment tool. And now we can fully stencil a container, lay the stencils down in well under an hour, saving a couple hours per container. And the objective going into it was for either of my two teenage daughters to be able to come in and stencil a container. So I'm looking forward to them coming in now to show all the folks in the shop that they can do it too.
I don't know, Brian, it's been a few months. You got to get them in there.
I know. Exactly. No, it's a good project, and for me, it's not one of these ones that is just a one-off and a showpiece, although it's nice to talk about, and it's neat for the team in the shop to get excited about it and wanting to try. And I stenciled my first container last week, so I know it works. But this is really taking the next step for us, and in an industry or a part of the aerospace market that's been virtually unchanged in processing from we're in the aftermarket. None of our product flies, so it's ground support equipment and tooling. It's the unsexy part of the aerospace industry. So it's adding some cool technology to, an area of the business and the area of the industry that's, virtually been unchanged for decades. And it's leverageable. We could, just because we're doing it for this one Sikorsky container, now we can get software for other products that we're doing for Pratt and other customers. So it's something we're excited about. It's going to be a big key for us here moving forward.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I think we've hit on developing. And is that saved? Oh, new one. Thank you. And then,
Yeah, one of the important notes that I see up on the screen is developing solutions with a problem in mind, right? So knowing what you're trying to target, what is the problem you're trying to solve, instead of creating a solution that then you hope to fit into a box. So that's why these conversations directly with the SMM community is so important. We, have boots on the ground at CCAT, folks that, we receive a call, we receive an inquiry from our tech demo request, an email, like conversations that stem off of, our working group colleagues coming together is important. So these are all, it's powerful to just keep talking, even if sometimes we're talking in circles. It's important for us to spark conversation, to identify where we have these gaps. And so this is the exercise that Jeff is taking us through now that will continue to carry on as we really then try to outline what our recommendations are going forward. So building the plane as we fly it a bit is sometimes what I keep talking about in various different circles. But it's important that we are, offering training, resources that are available, working collectively with the service providers, with academia, with those institutions and organizations and entities that might be those hidden gems. And we've uncovered a lot, certainly with President Toro speaking about Central, and then with Dean Miller talking about Yale University. So there are these connections that hopefully have been sparked and will continue to happen throughout this ecosystem here.
Okay, training is a little bit more obvious, but any thoughts you have on that? There's certainly a range of training, K through 12, post-secondary, secondary, post-secondary, incumbent worker. So any thoughts you want to add to kind of us fleshing out that definition?
Having come from a large organization myself, previous to joining CCAT, and even with respect to small businesses, having someone take hours out of their day, how are you going to pay for that training? There are subsidies that do happen for CapEx. There's matching grants available through voucher programs that DECD and the state of Connecticut offer to companies in this space that CCAT administers. I mean, I think some of the challenge and pain points might be for the small business community. How do you dedicate resources, in that way. Yep. Consider training oriented to both the technical community and business and leadership within an organization. I see something in the chat that had come through. Yep, Karen sharing that ASEE is organizing a series of webinars on Friday for Industry 4.0 at noon. And Marty from Stanley Black & Decker is one of the presenters. So there's a link to that opportunity. Leveraging relationships with higher education institutions across Connecticut. We've heard from our independent colleges. Wow, and then that just like blew up. Oh, that's previous.
Oh, sorry, that was my mistake. Yeah, sorry, that's my mistake.
Wow, you guys have a lot to say.
And now, hold on. That was my mistake. Sorry.
Okay.
A little window difficulty here. All right. And then we'll save this one. Save again. All right, we feel comfortable with that one. I'll move on to the next one. Marketing. What do you think is meant by service providers helping with support on marketing of Industry 4.0 technologies?
I'm not going to write this. I'm going to speak about this because I checked that box for CCAT. So I view our organization as, we wouldn't necessarily, we can. What we do is we are communicating and sharing out, some of these success stories. We are ones that if the company wants to partner on a tech demonstration, right, we just don't want to keep it closed within our four walls. So we want to be able to market, to share. Marketing to me also brings further opportunities as well. So being that convener and dot connector. So for me, those are what outside of the traditional box of marketing is where I see the value for CCAT in this way. And of course, we have other service providers as well that are with us that may or may not have checked that box, but if they want to be able to speak to that or share that, as we're digging through into our more comprehensive profiles of our service providers, it's going to be important to, again, put some clarity on what these 7 words mean and how we as the state of Connecticut and the service provider and SMM community are involved.
Right. This is going to go into helping us understand how the service providers support you. And also it goes into how we'll be cataloging those service providers and providing that information back. All right, only 2 more after marketing. Probably the next 2 are the easiest 2.
Yeah, the point that's been made of, ensuring that us as a collective, particularly the manufacturing community, knows what i4.0 is. We sort of just say off the cuff what this is. Earlier on when we kicked off our working group, we had Jeff walk us through the MEP, so the Manufacturing Extension Partnership slide deck that all 50 states, they're talking about Industry 4.0 and those 9 different technologies. We have companies, big, large, and entities across the service provider network that are helping to support this. But again, I think that's really the piece of marketing of ensuring that we have the Enlightened Collective that's a part of our working group right now, but then how else can we really get that message, that clear message out there of what i4.0 is, what those disciplines are, how, that process map that the team has already outlined of knowing resources, where to go. So that's going to be important. So that way we are all talking the same language here.
All right.
Speaking the same language.
Save that. Okay, last one is consulting. Oh, I'll grab that one quick and put it back at the last one.
Regarding marketing, Karen had dropped in the chat the community colleges with the National Manufacturing Center are creating a marketing campaign highlighting careers in manufacturing inclusive of Industry 4.0 and focusing on diversity and inclusion. So we'll be very interested in seeing that campaign that's coming out. Colin, of course, had talked about the Manufacturing Innovation Fund that wants to have also an advertising campaign to generate that interest from Connecticut residents about venturing into manufacturing and what i4.0 can offer. With regard to consulting, we see that CRE assessments are a natural link to consulting on i4.0 projects. I know that Eric Fogelman's presentation about that chart, that matrix of lighting it up and prioritizing, talking with business leaders in an organization. So it's the blend of technology, technical, and leadership and biz dev that's important to have all at the table, that you could see where your gaps are in your organization regarding, the industry readiness and assessment of where you are, providing expertise in the planning and execution phases of the projects. So yeah, absolutely, like having a plan in place, leveraging on experts. I mean, certainly we are learning and uncovering a lot of the resources that the service provider community across academia, nonprofits, state of Connecticut, etc. So I personally have really enjoyed listening to everyone's featured speakers and encourage folks to revisit.
All right, and we'll clear this one and move on to deploying. And that's our last one. How do service providers help small manufacturers in deploying Industry 4.0 technologies?
So earlier, Brian had shared how CCAT, through one of our regional programs, had supported the deployment, right? The development and then deployment of a mixed reality solution for their business. So we certainly do that a lot for various different needs across the ecosystem. I see implementation of technology solutions on site at the client's facility. Yeah, absolutely. That's critically important in having, engineering and technologists and available to help work directly with teams in an SMM is important. I know that we're coming down to the last 4 minutes of our time, and I myself do have a hard stop. So I apologize to our core team for not being able to hang on the line. Neither can Ron. So Jeff, do you want to talk through a little bit of next steps? I mean, next time we convene, we have the chamber giving us an overview. So thank you in advance for that.
Yep, thank you. As Jackie said, the little schedule change, we'll have the Central Connecticut Chambers of Commerce present in 2 weeks. And then it's our intention to take these inputs and put them together and send out a Google form that will inform some future work on identifying how processes are flowing through manufacturers and the gaps that are identified there. As Jackie said at the beginning, will make most sense to use our next meeting, our March 2nd meeting, as a wrap up of the report and review of that, so that we can make sure what we send for our interim report is all agreed upon by everyone. So I think those are the path forward for the next couple of weeks. And then we will look for ideas for additional service provider vignettes to share after CMMC goes. So if anybody's got any thoughts on who they'd like to hear from or what they'd like to share with the rest of the team, please let us know. All right, I'll save that. And I will stop sharing so that we can wrap up. And so any final comments or thoughts from anybody?
Well, hearing none, thank you all very much for your time and your engagement. I know that working session is hopefully not too painful and filling up the white space and with some commentary and comments. So if you go over to the chat, you'll see the session that's happening that Karen had talked about on i4.0. Jeff, I saw you starting to pull that up during the whiteboarding session. So encourage you all to, check it out. Keep empowering and supporting each other, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, everyone.